if people stop by. And we are live. And there's at least one person watching.
Yay!
I'm not sure if that one person is us or not, because I'm not sure how the thing works.
I don't think it counts us.
Doesn't count us as watching?
It counts us.
Good to know.
I mean, unless we're like watching from like another device.
Well, which I'm not.
Which you're not. So.
Not today.
No.
But at any rate.
But now we have
we have two. Dr. Rocky is here. We have audience. Tis grand. So yes.
So we sort of forgot to announce that this one is going to be on Tuesday. Maybe
we did announce it, but we didn't. I didn't actually advertise heavily until this morning.
About it, so
yeah. So people will show up, and if they don't show up, they'll watch it later.
Exactly. We might have a tiny audience for this one.
I'm all right with a tiny audience. So I have a confession to make.
Confess to us, sinner.
Thank you very much. And that confession is that usually when it comes to this show, I've got plenty of alcohol left from the drinking hour, because usually the drinking hour is on Saturday night and history hour is on Sunday night. But now the drinking hour is on Thursday night, and the history hour is now on Tuesday night, and this is all that is left of the noble oak. It's because
I don't want to make
it barely survived the weekend.
Well, that's because we took it to a party.
Fair enough.
We took it to a party where everybody loved it and everybody drank it, and now it's almost gone. I'm surprised there's anything left of it, to be honest.
Well, there's something left.
Tiny
there's something left. We'll have a tiny bit left, and
I feel like with those live shows not on the days that they were, it's hard to keep track of the days of the week now.
I know,
because I'm
it's
like,
also
it's Sunday. No, it's
Tuesday, and it's also a bit hard to keep track of. A bit hard to keep track of the ebbs and flows of our stockpile.
Yeah,
because we haven't shopped for the cooking show yet. Which means we're kind of running low on a lot of things. Yeah. Well, I will try getting through what we have, and we'll do the best.
Got plenty of the gin you don't like.
Yes, indeed. You heard a random pop, right?
I did hear a random pop.
I'm not sure what it was. Oh well, I'm not going to worry about it. Not going to worry about it. Not going to worry about it.
No, you're fine. I just wanted to see the kitty. All right.
Fair enough. All right, a little bit of review time. This is Western Africa. Up here you got the Sahara Desert, which is pretty much uninhabitable. Down here you got jungles, which is mostly uninhabitable, except for the coastlines and the river valleys. And in between, you've got the savannah, which is actually inhabitable, and you can actually do some decent farming there, and the Sahel, which kind of moves north to south because it doesn't want to follow the traditional rules of geography. In the midst of all this, somewhere around here, you got the ancient Ghana Empire, which is the prelude to the Malian Empire, which is what we're going to be getting to today. With Mansa Musa as the king of the Malian Empire. Before we get that, we got to talk about the Ghana Empire. No relation to the modern country Ghana, which is down here. The Ghana Empire is up here. Ghana Empire is up there. It lasted from around the 800s until around the 1200s, and then it got attacked by the Almoravids, who are from way up here. But they came down across the desert because you didn't expect them to come across the desert, did you? But they did, and they attacked, and they got repelled. But dang it, Ghana took enough of a hit, so that it kind of started falling into pieces. Until in 1235, Sundiata rebelled. Yay, fuck, got it right there. Sundiata rebelled against Somaru, the evil sorcerer king of Ghana. And yeah, very good. He rebelled. So Sundiata rebelled. And he founded a new kingdom, the Kingdom of Mali, the Malian Empire, which again in this area over here. He founded the Malian Empire and founded the dynasty, the Keita dynasty, and his son Ali, which I'm sure we may not have made it. It's all right. His son Ali converted to Islam and thus brought Islam to the Malian Empire, and he even made the Hajj. That is to say, he took the pilgrimage over to Mecca and then went back, and everybody was very impressed. And now there's Islam in the Malian Empire. So now that we have covered the founding of the dynasty of Mansa Musa, let's talk a little bit about the Kingdom of Mali. A little bit of a review from the last time about the Kingdom of Mali. So you've got the savannah over here, and that gives you plenty of farmland, which means that you can afford to feed your people and your populace and your military. That's important. You got to feed the army, because if you don't feed the army, they get angry. So, but aside from that, you've also got salt mines up here, gold mines down here. That's how Ghana made all their money, getting all of the trade between the salt mines and the gold mines. But the Malian Empire decided we're going to do that a little bit better. And Sundiata decides we're going to conquer the salt mines and the gold mines, and we're going to go all the way to the coast. And to get to the coast, once we conquer the coast, then we can get a navy, and we can start navying it up, and we got control of this river and control of that river and get control of all the rivers. And what's better than having control of rivers and the trade routes, because the trade routes are still going between the salt and the gold and back, and all the gold is coming out of it. And now that you own the gold mines, you own the gold, which means you have them, you make the money. Now you make the money, which means, you know what that means? It means you're rich. It means you're richer than anybody else, and you're just amassing nothing but wealth. Along comes Abu Bakari.
Oh, I've got him. Bleep, bleep.
Abu Bakari is...
I forgot he was just like that.
Yeah, it's all right. We'll change his uniform later to something better. So, we got Abu Bakari, who decides, I am going to send a fleet off to the west to across the ocean and see what's at the other side of the ocean. If there is another side of the ocean, the fleet comes back with one person, one fleet. There's a fleet of 200 ships, but only one comes back alive, and he comes back and he says, they all died because there's a whirlpool. And Abu Bakari says, I want to see it for myself, and I'm going to go see it for myself, and I'm going to put as deputy in my place Musa, our guy.
Oh, our guy. Oh,
yes.
We skipped that guy, but all right. We skipped a dude. Here.
That's all right. So we got Musa. Mansa is the title. Mansa means king. And Mansa Musa is a descendant of Sundiata. Abu Bakari is also a descendant of Sundiata, but they're like cousins to each other. Mansa, Musa, and Abu Bakari. Because that's how royal families work sometimes, you know?
Sure.
It does.
Sure. Okay.
I promise. At least this one doesn't have incest like last week.
That's
2 weeks ago, whatever.
2 weeks ago.
Eleanor.
3 weeks ago.
Eleanor,
yeah, I was
European.
talking about incestual plants.
Right.
That's for sure.
At any rate, so we were talking about incestual plants?
I said I wasn't.
We will next time.
I guess I could try to make that work.
Anyway, the point is that Abu Bakari decides that he's going to go see what's on the other side of the ocean. So he gets together a fleet of 2,000 ships, goes across the ocean, and never comes back alive that we know of. As far as we know, he died. Or maybe he found the new world, and maybe he settled there and established his own kingdom, for which there is no evidence. I don't know. That's speculative. So that brings us to Mansa Musa. How about that? I think we're pretty much done with...
well, we only had one episode to recap, so...
Well, I spent a lot of it just talking about Malian culture. Oh, a few other quick little tidbits. So the Malian society, very, very, very wealthy, but also very, very connected with trade routes across the Sahara up to the desert. That is not a camel.
It's a giraffe. It's not
because
even
we needed a vase. We needed a vase, right? It was a vase.
It's possibly the most important picture we've drawn in this entire show. Is this giraffe vase? Never forget it. We need you to carry on the legacy. All right, what were we talking about?
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. Legacy of the vase of. I need more alcohol.
Me too.
Point is, right. Malian Empire connected. The other bad thing to be aware of when it comes to the Malian Empire is that while the upper class is Muslim, and Mansa Musa, of course, is Muslim, much of the commoners still practice the traditional West African religions, which makes society just a little bit of a melting pot right there, which is fascinating if you're an anthropologist today, but horrifying if you are a traditional Muslim scholar from the 13th century. Right. So this brings us to Mansa Musa. So we are now in the 14th century. Mansa Musa becomes king in 1312, I believe it is. Yeah, I was right. 1312. 1312. Spends the early part of his reign, of course, solidifying his reign, making sure that everything is good and peaceful. And he's got his nice little standing army going. He goes up the Niger River and conquers Timbuktu. Good for him. And then he sends his general further up the river to conquer Gao, while he goes and makes the Hajj, which of course is the big event of his reign as far as what he gets remembered for, because frankly, as we will see, he wanted to be remembered. He wanted to be remembered for it. So
mission accomplished.
So he talks a little bit about his entourage, because when you
big.
go...
It was really, really big.
Really, really big.
Really, really big.
Because here's the thing: when you go on any kind of a trip in the Middle Ages, you got to bring your entourage with you. You've got to bring if you're a nobleman or something, you got to bring your bodyguard. You got to bring your cook. You got to bring your scribes. You got to bring your squires.
Guy who is your advisor but is secretly evil.
That guy. You always got to bring that guy. So
you got to bring a dog.
Indeed.
A cat.
Well, why the duck? By all means.
And also a guy who makes really good shadow puppets.
You know, I will accept that. I will accept the shadow
puppeteer.
The point is that if you are an average king or nobleman living in the Middle Ages, going on a cross-country tour, you're going to bring
all the people. You bring literally everything in the kitchen sink.
Yes,
probably a kitchen sink.
Well, here's the thing: for most people, though, that means an entourage of 100 to 500 people, right?
Sure, I don't know.
More or less.
Okay.
More or less.
All right.
But not if you're Mansa Musa. If you're Mansa Musa, that entourage involves...
How big was it?
Supposedly 60,000 people.
Which is like more than the population of some small town.
That's
actually most.
That's most big cities. Than, we're talking Middle Ages. That's a big city. 60,000 people. That's a big city, and you've got an entourage of about 60,000 people. Which includes about 20,000 slaves, each one carrying a 4-pound bar of gold, 500 heralds shouting, make way, with big golden staffs. Each one holding up big golden staffs.
Or maybe it was the hard job.
Thousands of camels. How many thousands of camels? Actually, 600 of camels. 600 camels and 40 bakers and tombs and shakers Ali. I don't know.
Don't forget one giraffe vase. It's very important, and it will come into play later. Just you wait.
It shall. He also has his wife, Inari Kunate, with him.
She does wifely things.
And she's also got an entourage of like 500 people just for herself.
Ooh.
Because that's what she gets to have. And they make their way across the Sahara up towards Egypt. And along the way, according to the records, they build a new mosque every Friday. Every Friday, instead of using the local mosque, because the local mosque is not going to be big enough to accommodate 60,000 people, they build a brand new mosque, just leaving a train of mosques behind them. And then they get to Cairo, up here in Egypt. And then they get to Alexandria. And this is when things start getting...
frisky?
Start getting a little crazy on an economic level.
I think you could have used
frisky. I'll go with frisky. This is when things start getting frisky on an economic level. Because Mansa Musa, first of all, decides that he's got to give zakat, right? You know what zakat
not
is,
the
right?
Cat.
No, not zakat. Not zakat. No, he does not have to give away zakat. He gets to keep zakat. No, zakat.
I'm guessing that's charity.
That's charity.
Okay.
That is charity. Because in Islam you're supposed to give charity, and you're supposed to go on the Hajj, you're supposed to go on the pilgrimage to Mecca, and you're supposed to give charity while you're on the pilgrimage to Mecca, because it's a thing. You see, it's good to get to do things at the same time. Why not? You can be a multitask piety person. No reason not. So you give a bunch of so he's giving out gold. When I say he's giving out charity, I don't mean he's giving out a few copper coins neither. He's giving out gold. Here's the thing about Mansa Musa. He is arguably the richest person who has ever lived.
Mm-hmm.
Arguably. And I say arguably just because it is hard to calculate things like exchange rate and stuff like that. And I mean, when you think about it, you know, back 100 years ago, a house cost the same amount as a car. Now here we are, 100 years later, a car costs a tenth of what a house does, and I can't afford either one. So
imagine that.
Whereas 100 years ago I could have afforded both. What the heck? So yeah, that's the same thing right there. Point is that adjusting for inflation and exchange rate and different things have different values in different centuries. It makes it hard to try to actually get a definite idea of how wealthy Mansa Musa was, but you can definitely say he is arguably the richest person who ever lived, and he certainly was the richest person of his generation. Definitely, without a doubt, you can absolutely say he was the richest man alive at his time. Arguably the richest who ever lived, which means that when he is going through Cairo, and Alexandria, and he is giving zakat. He is giving away zakat in the form of just bags, little leather bags full of gold dust.
Gold.
That's what
dust.
that is what he's just giving out to the poor people. Just all over the place. All of just giving away gold dust to the peasants. Not only is he doing that, but he is also buying a lot of stuff. Just all sorts of stuff.
Souvenirs.
Yes, absolutely.
You
He is buying souvenirs.
You buy a souvenir.
But
he bought a souvenir all over the place.
Oh, absolutely. You buy all the souvenirs all over the places, in all the places where you get souvenirs.
Foxy, why is he known so much? Why is he? Surely there were tons of people in history who did that kind of thing.
Not as much as he did.
So why is he
Not that
remembered?
much money. For that much money? Because that's that much money. We're getting to why. So first of all, it's because it's that much money. People notice that much money. Because here's the thing. Mansa Musa wanted to be noticed. He wanted to be noticed because, you see, he was ruling over Mali, which is over here. The center of the Muslim world is over there. Persia's way over there. Indonesia's way over there. That's the other end of the Muslim world. He is at the arse end of the Muslim world, and Indonesia is the other arse end. That's the heart. The Middle East is the heart of the Muslim world. So he wants to be noticed. He doesn't just want to be some little kingdom out in the edge of the world, out in the boonies. He wants his kingdom to be well known as the place that is full of all of the monies and all of the arts and all of the stuff. But he hasn't got all the arts and all the stuff yet. He's getting to that. We'll get to that in a minute. Right now, he wants to make sure everybody knows this is where the gold is. This is where the money is. He wants to put Mali on the map. As literally as he wants to do that.
It's not even on our map.
Well, because our map only has rivers on it.
Oh.
Because I wanted to keep it with just geographical things and not political, just geography, just rivers. And because I might want to use this map for another thing. At any rate.
All right.
Do you want any more of this before I finish it?
No, you can finish it.
All right.
I'm moving on to bigger and better pastures.
Oh, gin. Very well. Gin it is then. Right.
I like it. It's good. It tastes like pine tree, but sad pine tree.
Sad pine tree.
Which is my soul.
Very well. I can understand if your soul is sad pine tree. So, makes his way to Mecca. Continues, by the way, stops for Jerusalem, stops in Medina, continues to spend money, buying souvenirs, giving away gold all over the place. Then he gets to Mecca. He does the Hajj thing. He goes around the Kaaba and says the prayers, and then turns around and starts heading home. And on his way heading home, he finds something. And what he discovers is
gold.
Well, no, he had the gold already.
No.
What he discovers.
Friendship.
Yes, we'll say yes. We'll say yes, he discovered friendship, but that's not what I was getting at.
Aaron's rod.
What is Aaron's rod?
Oh,
that rod. That Aaron. I thought, you have a rod? No.
I forgot that's also my
he
name.
crashed the economy.
Oh, no. That's not giving charity.
No, yeah, because here's the thing about money. Money isn't actually really worth anything, even gold. Even like money is a representation of other things.
Greed.
I was thinking goods and services, but yeah, greed. That's how.
The greed of humanity.
But also goods and services, because that's what economy actually is. Economy isn't gold. It's not dollars. It's not yen. It's not rubles. Economy is carrots and wheat and massages and CDs that you can purchase on Bandcamp. So.
Wink.
So that's what economy really is. So when you start throwing a whole bunch of money, even if that money is gold, into the system, but you don't actually increase, any of the other stuff in the economy, then the economy is going to start to crash. And you did hear a car. I don't know whose car that was a local dickmobile. Welcome to the Heights.
Car, it's not ours.
Not ours. But yeah, so he found that he had kind of ruined the local economy by putting too much gold into the economy. And at which point, by the way, he decides he's gonna fix it. He's gonna fix it by
Well, you can't give more gold then.
borrowing all his gold back.
Wow, what a sweet deal for him.
It is kind of a sweet deal. And a lot of people suspect that might have been his intention the whole time.
To spend so much money that you crash the economy that they have to give you your money back.
Exactly.
Did he have to return any of the things he bought?
No, that's the thing. He's borrowing the gold. And he's going to pay it back on interest. But he's going to pay it back in the future. And by the way, this is a general thing. Because you might be thinking to yourself, well, why would he want his country to suddenly be in debt like that? He's just borrowed a bunch of stuff. He now owes a bunch of money. And it's like, well, here's the thing. When you're trying to get yourself onto the international stage, having a little bit of debt is actually a good thing. Because it ties other countries to you, you see. Mm-hmm. That's why the United States, when the United States became a country, one of the first things it wanted to do was borrow a bunch of money from the Dutch. Why? Because the Dutch, they're a real country that matters. You know, and they got credit and stuff. And if you're a new country and you want your country to matter, then you need a connection of some kind to another country. You know, like the Netherlands, because they're a real country that matters. And so Mansa Musa, with his Malian empire, he's trying to get it on the map. He's trying to get it more connected with the Muslim world. Well, now he's going home with a bunch of his own gold, but it's gold that he has now borrowed from Medina and Cairo and wherever, and he is eventually going to, over time, pay it back, and therefore not crash the local economy. But now he's got those connections, you see, because that's how national debt works. We got into some weird economic stuff. Do you feel enlightened? Do you feel economically empowered?
What are economics?
I don't know. It's Greek for household management. I'm also going to make the comments a little bigger so I can actually see. Very good. I see that Jordan has arrived, and I'm glad that you're excited for the lesson. Anybody who's here, by the way, feel free to leave comments in the down there and click the like button if you enjoy what you're hearing, and
subscribe if you haven't already.
And subscribe if you haven't already. These sorts of things help to grow the channel and stuff and nonsense and what have you. So, yeah, Mansa Musa crashed all those economies and then took all his gold back. And then went back with all of his gold and a bunch of stuff. Oh, and one more thing. People.
What about him?
Lots of people. He came back home with a lot of people.
What do you mean?
Well, people like...
Do you mean like consensual people?
Yes,
like
consensual people. Consensual people.
Okay.
All
right.
Oh, no. We talk about slaves. We're going to talk about slaves over here. Slavery existed here, but not in the sense of chattel slavery. We'll get to that in a minute, as to what the difference is between indentured servitude and chattel slavery and what have you. But in the meantime, Mansa Musa is coming back to West Africa from the Middle East with consensual people like architects, people like mathematicians, people like engineers, people like artists, people like scribes and teachers and imams and mullahs and other types of ulama, other types of religious clerical types. Ulama, that's Muslim for cleric.
Oh.
Which is a weird way to put it, but there you have it. Because
Okay.
it's actually Arabic. Muslim isn't a language. It's a religion. But, at any rate.
You're a schooler.
I am a schooler.
He's a schooler. Anyways.
So
he comes back with people.
So he comes back with all these people, all these consensual
like,
people.
I'm going to go to Mali.
Well, because he's been throwing gold all over the place.
So they must...
So there's a lot of scholars who are thinking to themselves, I want to get me a nice cushy job, doing art or architecture or writing or something. But, the market's kind of saturated here at home because all the scribes are here. And it's hard to get... But this guy's got all the gold in the world. And he really wants professional smart people. So now it's time for a nice cushy job with a nice fat paycheck. And they were right, because that's what they got. So Mansa Musa comes back home to Mali to find that his general, remember his general? Do you remember his name?
Oh, I
don't remember his.
him. It's somewhere. I know it. It was this guy. This guy, right?
Yeah, Sakmandia. Yeah, there he is.
I knew it. I
knew
knew this guy came in somewhere.
He was going to come up. I knew we drew his picture for a reason. So Sakmandia was Mansa Musa's general.
Him?
No, actually.
Oh. I kind of thought that he would betray him.
No, he didn't.
Isn't that what generals are for?
Generals
betraying you?
Generally speaking. But this time, no. Ding. So this time, no. This time, surprisingly, Mansa Musa leaves for Hajj, leaves his general in charge to take Gao, and comes back, and the general's like, well, I took Gao, just like you said. Went off without a hitch. And Mansa Musa is like, thank you very much. Here is a medal and a raise. And
here, have a trophy.
Here, have a trophy. And is great. Which is freaking amazing. It is freaking amazing. Because medieval history, when it comes to Europe, is a whole story. Whenever anybody goes off on crusade, people start rebelling when they're gone. People go on a campaign for some other adventure. They're gone rebelling all the time. And here in Mali, there's no rebelling. Mansa Musa comes back, and his empire is bigger than it was when he left.
And his general just lets him take it back.
And just general's like, here's your Gao and the rest of your empire. And a trophy.
I must return to the sea from whence I came.
Yeah.
I don't know.
King Bob's Consola. Never mind. So yeah, what happens for the rest of Mansa Musa's reign? A fair amount. He does a lot of stuff. Does a lot of building. Builds up a lot of the infrastructure between Timbuktu and Gao. I'm gonna spoiler alert. A lot of this is gonna be boring because it's all very successful and nothing bad happens. I mean, that's the thing.
But that's the point where you just said, everyone lived happily ever after.
Well, yeah, everyone is just living happily ever after. He builds up some roads. Builds up his fleet, because remember how the predecessor, his cousin Abu Bakari, had gone across the Western Sea and never come back. So you got to rebuild your fleet. He keeps the army going. The army never rebel or nothing. The land is peaceful. When you have a standing army that is patrolling the roads and the trade routes, and then bandits aren't really a problem. For example, when Ibn Battuta, now admittedly this is not during Mansa Musa's reign, this is during the reign of one of his successors, his brother Suleiman. When Ibn Battuta travels the land during Suleiman's reign, he actually makes note of the fact, I didn't see any bandits, and our party didn't have any guards either. I'm like, don't we need guards? They're like, what guards? What for? It's like, for bandits. Bandits here. Not in Bossing, say. No, money and empire, that's where we are. So yeah, everything's fine.
Well, you could talk about that slave thing. That seems not fine.
Well, I can talk about the slave thing because that is just the reality of how things were at the time, which is a bit controversial and complicated. Because remember how we were talking about, the salt mines and the gold mines, and how
someone to work those mines.
Someone needs to work those mines, and the farms not so much. Farms tend to be privately owned, and so it's the family-run business. But when it comes to the mines, when it comes to the salt mines and the gold mines, those are run by slaves. Those are worked by slaves, and these slaves, by the way, are acquired by raiding the neighbors.
Remind me what year this is again? What century?
14th century.
Okay. All right.
So, side note, 14th century slavery is fairly common.
Yeah.
Generally speaking. Throughout the Muslim world, slaves. Throughout Africa, slaves. Throughout Europe, mostly serfs, but also slaves. The
thing is, most cultures have some form of slavery, but it's extremely variable as to what that kind of.
Indeed, we're not talking when we tend to think of out of focus. There we go. Did that work?
I think so.
Yes.
I think you're in focus.
Yay. When we tend to think,
just drunk.
I am. When we tend to think of slavery, we tend to think of American slavery, and American slavery at the time was known as the peculiar institution because it was rather peculiar. They kind of understood at the time that what they had as an institution was weird. compared to, because it was a racially based thing, you see, in the antebellum America, where if you're black, you're a slave, and if you're a slave, you're black, and that's just how it be. And there's no real way to not be a slave, ultimately, if you're black. And that's not generally the way things were done throughout history when it came to historical slavery. Historical slavery was usually more along the lines of, you're not a slave because you're of a particular race. You're a slave because you were captured in that war. It's like 9 times out of 10, or because you were in debt and sold yourself into slavery in order to get rid of your debt.
In other words, race was incidental. It was basically whoever they happened to capture.
Whoever happened
to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
That's who got to be a slave.
It's not necessarily a factor that went into it. But with the Atlantic slave trade, it was the factor that went into it. So
or if you were really, really poor and decided that selling yourself into slavery was the only way out. Mm-hmm. That was another way you could become a slave in the medieval and ancient worlds. And the other thing is there was a way out of the slavery as well. You could eventually buy your way out of slavery, theoretically. Mm-hmm. Probably not, but theoretically. And of course, then there's indentured servitude, which is like slavery, except there's a definite time when you will be going free at a certain point. It's like a mortgage instead of rent.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So that is the sort of thing that the Malian Empire had. Mm-hmm. And it was very commonplace. Really everywhere.
It was common. Which isn't to excuse it, it's just putting things into its context.
Yes.
So, that being said, I'm not done talking about the things that Mansa Musa did, even if it is boring, and it doesn't involve killing anybody, or wars, or drama, because he built some stuff.
Okay.
He built a mosque, for example. He built a mosque in Timbuktu. The mosque has a name, what is it? Jungwerber.
I hope you're pronouncing that correctly.
I might not. When it comes to any of the names that you hear in this episode, I cannot guarantee I'm pronouncing any of them right. When we get to the Middle East, I'll be pronouncing things right, probably. When we get to Europe, I'll probably be pronouncing things right. But here in Sub-Saharan Africa, I am not guaranteeing that I will pronounce anything correctly. So, Jingwerber, right. Jingwerber Mosque. It's a huge mosque, and it's still around today.
Cool.
Still exists.
Wow.
And it's got like big tall towers going all around, and like the rafters sticking out of it. You've probably seen pictures of it.
That's what I was gonna say.
Like I kind of feel like I want to bring up a picture of it here. I've got a machine. Eventually, I will figure out how to show you pictures of things where I will be able to go clicky, clicky, click, and poof, and the whole screen will just be full of...
We might need to use a specific streaming thing for that. We'll figure that out later. Are you running out of things to say?
No, I am not. I'm just trying to... I don't have to show them a picture.
Oh, no, I'm just wondering.
I am not running out of things to say. There's a few more things that I have to say. I wanted to show them a picture.
Well, then show them a picture.
Well, now you're making me feel...
Don't be a sensitive Susan. Just show them the picture.
If I'm even... I did spell it right. How about that? There we go. The Jingwerber Mosque. It is a thing. I told you it was a thing. I just don't know if I'm pronouncing it right or not.
It sounds so derpy when you say it like that.
Do I? There we go. That's the Jingwerber Mosque. That thing. It's enormous. And it's got rafters sticking out the side. And it's still around today.
Yay!
But that's the thing. It's like it's impressive that it's still around today. He also built a big palace in Timbuktu. That's not around anymore.
No.
Palace isn't around anymore.
No.
Well, because people don't care as much about the king's house as they do about God's house. Which makes sense.
Some would say that's fair.
That's fair. That's on my side.
It depends on your perspective, really.
Pass me the Smoky. There's still a little bit left.
Oh, there is.
There is. That's the moonshine from 2 weeks ago. But
it survived this long.
So he also built a university in Sankara, which is another city in his empire. The university in Sankara was was enormous. It had something like 20,000 students. I'm going to check that on my notes. Sorry, 25,000 students. Which again, in the Middle Ages, 20,000 people. That's a
lot. That's a lot.
That's a small city.
You know, we're talking like a lot of towns have, like, small towns are like, you know, a couple hundred people.
Yeah.
And like smaller cities are usually in like Europe, they're like 10,000 to 20,000 people. So like, you know, you've got the size of a small city in this one university, and that's pretty impressive.
And that is very impressive. So
it's not even all the people living there, you know, that's just the students.
Yeah, that's just the students in the university. That's 25,000 students with a library of about 1 million books.
Is that library still there?
No.
The libraries never survive.
The libraries never survive. I know.
Always go for the libraries.
The building is still there.
Oh, well, thank God.
but yeah, the library is mostly ransacked. Wars happen, and spoiler alert: the Malian Empire eventually falls. Not for quite a few generations after Mansa Musa, but eventually it does.
Eventually.
Which means that but at the time, 1 million books. It was the largest library in Africa since the library in Alexandria. So, you know, the library in Alexandria. So
that one.
Indeed. So yeah, built a bunch of stuff. Also built universities in other cities as well. But built another university in Timbuktu and another one in Gao. So yeah, built a lot of stuff, which a lot of people don't think that that's fascinating, but I do. It's like a lot of people don't like, you know, they want to focus on someone like, you know, like Richard the Lionheart, because there were wars and drama. Mansa Musa just had, you know, balanced books and a nice infrastructure policy. And I think that's awesome. I think
that we should talk about Mansa Musa's place in history. If you're, you know, at some point when you're done with all of your thingies.
Oh, yes, I will. Indeed. That's kind of the wrap-up part.
Yes.
Which we will be getting to eventually. But yeah, so also there was an invasion.
Oh, no, the people that invasion.
The Mossi people. They were Saharan people of the Sahel. They invaded. And Mansa Musa fought them back, and that was it.
Did he win?
Yeah, Mansa Musa won. He
Wow, this guy had a very exciting and yet uneventful life.
Yeah, I know. It was great. It's like, and there was an invasion, which was easily repelled. Yeah.
All right.
It was great. It didn't even last very long. It's like it was in 1330, and it was like a couple months, and it was over. Yay! Well, yeah, so when did he die? 1337 is when Mansa Musa died. He was succeeded by his son, who didn't last very long. The son died of plague.
Can't escape the plague.
Can't escape plague. Can't escape plague. No matter where you are, it's the Middle Ages, you can't escape the plague. So son died of plague, which meant that his brother took over, Suleiman. And his brother Suleiman reigned for a fairly long time, and he had a nice successful reign. And we're gonna call it there as far as the timeline goes, because then we're getting into the fall of the Malian Empire, which is its own long spiel. But here's the important thing: he did get it. Remember how I said that Mansa Musa, the whole point of his Hajj, was to show off all of his wealth in order to put Mali on the map. He put Mali on the map.
Wow.
Quite literally.
Oh my
Quite
gosh.
Literally. Because there is a map. I'm going to put it. Okay, so this is when, if you came in early, before we started the show, then you would have seen, what was the name of the map? There's a name for the map. The Catalan Atlas is the name of the map. And I'm going to pull up a picture of it now, just because it's there you are. The Catalan Atlas. So I just go with images. I'll probably find. So there's just random example of picture. The Catalan Atlas. So this was made in 1375. So a good 50 years after Mansa Musa died. And that's just one piece of the atlas. But I would like, there we go. This, of course, is the zoom in part. Zoom in on West Africa. And there you have Mansa Musa. And a trader, presumably a trader on a camel heading towards him. So So yeah, he wanted to put on the map, and he literally put Mali on the map, specifically the Catalan Atlas, which, by the way, that atlas was made by Abraham Crescas, Jew.
Oh,
Just because apparently in the random side tangent, in the 14th century in Spain, Jews were very, very much involved in the cartography industry.
okay.
And thus my map making abilities that use my terrifying map making abilities. My God, this is horrible. But you can see there's the coast of Africa.
There's like some squiggles to indicate water.
There's squiggles to I know how to map make. So yeah, let's talk a bit about. Let's wrap this up a bit by talking a bit about the legacy of Mansa Musa. So first of all, he did put Mali on the map. Not just on the Catalan Atlas, but in general, Mali became known throughout the Muslim world.
Indeed.
Which was his whole goal. His whole goal, he wanted to make sure that the Malian Empire would not just be some backwater on the edge of the Islamic world. He wanted it to be front and center, and he did that. He did just that. He made that happen. But then, of course, there's the dark side to that legacy. The unfortunate dark side to that legacy, because you see, while he was in Alexandria, guess who else was in Alexandria? Venetian merchants and crusaders. And Venetian merchants and crusaders went home with stories about the great West African king with all the gold and all the gold in the world. And yeah.
Oh, I see.
They came back with all those stories, which meant that because of Mansa Musa, Europe, or rather West Africa, developed a reputation in Europe, a reputation for being wealthy, a reputation for having lots of gold, a reputation for being the kind of place you might want to visit and conquer.
Yes, so this is the start of imperialism, unfortunately.
Or rather, it lays the groundwork, alas, for imperialism.
It sort of inspires it, and we see sort of the same thing happen in South America when they discovered gold in those places as well. So there's that.
So yeah, this is what leads to all sorts of expeditions start getting sent out by the Portuguese, and then eventually by the Spanish as well, going down the West African coast, trying to find this amazing West African kingdom full of gold and all the gold in the world. It should also be noted, by the way, that for a time, there was also a rumor in the West that Mansa Musa was in fact Prester John.
Huh?
Prester John. Are you not familiar with this little bit of stupidity from the Middle Ages?
No.
All right. So in the Middle Ages,
Prester John.
Prester John is a mythical king of Africa. A Christian king of Africa. A mythical Christian king of Africa. This man never actually existed. But in the Middle Ages, people up in Europe, Christians up in Europe, were convinced that Prester John was totally a person. That Prester John was a great Christian king of Africa. And for a while, they were under the impression that Mansa Musa was Prester John, in spite of the fact that Mansa Musa was very much Muslim and not Christian.
Weird.
Now, by the way, where Prester John probably comes from is that over in Ethiopia, over here, there are Christian kingdoms.
There are. Yes.
There's a whole, like, we could do an episode on that at some point. The Christian kingdoms of Ethiopia and the history of that, and that's something we did. And we actually did the First Crusade already.
Yeah, I think that if we took the episodes down, I believe you can still view them on Patreon.
Yes, or if not now, then you will when I actually post them there.
Yes, they'll be up on Patreon eventually. But yes, we did do the first. That was the first.
Yes, the first episode we did was the First Crusade. We might do the Second Crusade at some point, but yeah, and we might do an episode on the Christian kingdoms of Ethiopia, and so yeah, that is most likely the origin of the myth of Prester John, is that there actually were African Christian kingdoms, a whole slew of them, And so the rumors of an African Christian kingdom kind of all melded into this rumor of Prester John, who, again, Mansa Musa was confused for because Europeans can't do geography, I guess, or something. But yeah, and I believe that wraps up our segment on Mansa Musa. We finished about 15 minutes early.
We did, but we kind of knew that this was going to be a shorter series anyway.
Yes, this was going to be a shorter one anyway. So we did one that didn't last 5 episodes. My goodness.
We did.
I actually held back. All right. So yeah, thank you very much for coming along. We do hope you have enjoyed our little bout
sort
with
of a mini series.
Our little mini series on Mansa Musa. Join us this Thursday at 6 o'clock
for
Cooking with Foxy.
Cooking with Foxy.
And then join us again on also Thursday at 9 o'clock for Foxy's Drinking Hour.
And if you want to catch us for our first in-person
Renaissance Fair, we're going to actually do a show.
We're going to do a real
in-live person show.
In
Vermont. Stowe, Vermont.
So it'll be the Vermont Renaissance
Renaissance Fair.
There, and it'll be great. It'll be our first run fair that we've done not post-plague, but,
tail end of plague, late plague.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves, but,
hopefully plague over,
plague over
show thing. So yeah, come find us at Stowe, Vermont in this weekend of time, and join us next week at Tuesday of the clock at 8 of the clock on Tuesday of next week, when we will be doing a Pride Month thing. We're going to do a Pride Month thing. Don't know what about specifically.
We're going to iron out the details later, but we're going to do it while Pride Month is still Pride Month.
Indeed. And if you are a patron, then you can go onto the Patreon page to vote for the next History Hour Foxy doing thing that we do.
The next
Foxy's History Hour
that we do. We'll be up for a vote soon. And I think that's all we have to announce for now. We also, if you follow us on Facebook or Instagram, you can check out the upcoming shows we're going to do in person, because we have officially posted those.
We have officially posted them. Vermont, Connecticut,
well,
Maine,
not that Connecticut.
Midsummer Fantasy Renaissance Fair. So in Maine, Connecticut,
Massachusetts,
Sparta.
That's all we have confirmed so far, and it's definitely the kind of thing that we're updating.
We will update as we find out new things
of
stuff and things and doing.
Yes.
Yay. See you next time on Thursday.